Hey guys, and welcome back to our YouTube channel. And this week we are continuing our Christopher Nolan retrospective with The Prestige.
The Prestige. We're in a little bit different filming location today. It'll look a little bit different than this probably the next time you see it, or maybe not the next time you see it.
We're in a transition phase.
Yeah,
transition phase.
but we're gonna have a dedicated recording space at least, for now.
Yep.
Hopefully for the very near foreseeable future.
We're working on, increasing our quality and such. So
we got some new lights. If you can see them glaring in our eyes, we're sorry.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
I should have put my contacts in, but that's a lot of work. But anyway, The Prestige, directed by Christopher Nolan, of course.
Yeah, it's written by Chris and his brother Jonathan.
That's right, and it is starring Hugh Jackman,
Christian Bale.
Michael Caine, of course.
I mean, that's a given.
The Christopher Nolan films.
Unusual one for this. Scarlett Johansson's in this.
Yeah, I think before she was a household name.
Back before she got super famous, yeah.
And, of course, the now deceased David Bowie.
Tears.
Kind of briefly, but anyway.
Very, very briefly. He's not in it, but for like 3 or 4 scenes, maybe.
But anyway, so yeah, we're on the... What film is this?
This is the 5th film.
5th already? We reviewed 4 of them?
We did...
Following,
Memento, Insomnia, Batman Begins, and now The Prestige.
That's right. So we're on our 5th Christopher Nolan film.
Yeah.
So, I've enjoyed the Christopher Nolan retrospective so far. This is the 2nd film that I hadn't seen prior. No, third film I hadn't seen prior to us going back and reviewing these, and I thought I'd seen most of his movies.
That's
but
fair.
I think this is the last one that I hadn't seen, if I'm not mistaken.
See, there's only I had not seen Following, and I had not seen Insomnia, and I had not seen Interstellar. So the only one I have left that I've not seen is Interstellar. So
yeah,
we got a few movies before I get there.
So yeah, I think this is the 3rd and last one that I hadn't seen. So
You have any initial expectations or thoughts?
I'd heard about this film. Obviously, I knew it existed. I knew it had Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale in it.
Yeah.
And I'd heard that it was good. I'd heard it was pretty classic Nolan, quality film. I never had any great wish to see it because I'm just not into magician dramas, I guess, if that's a subgenre of film. But
I guess.
I was never like, oh, I want to go watch this movie about magicians, but.
I'd say I definitely I would. I don't know if you think this, but I would say walking out of seeing this movie the first time, I'd say yes, it's about magicians, but it's not about magicians.
It's not. Yeah, it's not about the craft of being. I mean, it makes you think that it is for a while, but it's really not about the craft of being a magician.
Yeah.
Not so much like what is that one film? Now You See Me or whatever.
Yeah, that's definitely it's a magic. It's a magic show.
Yeah.
You're watching a magic show while they're stealing money.
This one takes a turn. It turns into a sci-fi movie at one point. Yeah. So, but yeah. So once getting into it, it's pretty evident early on it's gonna be sold non-linear.
Yes.
Classic, Nolan.
We start with basically the end of the movie. So.
Yeah, basically, or right near the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And I caught on early on that this was not going to be linear, which is fine. I think
it's pretty classic Nolan for you.
If Nolan is able to do that and use it to enhance the movie, I'll go with it. And I'll go ahead and say that in this film, I do think that it increases the watchability of this film because you see early on Hugh Jackman drowns, and then so now you want to know.
You're kind of intrigued, you definitely. Christopher Nolan does a good job building the intrigue from that first scene. You see Hugh Jackman's character drown, and then we go back in time a little ways, and you're like, okay, now you're interested in watching the movie because you want to find out how we got to that point.
Yeah, that's right. I think he's clever with the way he uses Hugh Jackman to kind of help you grasp where in time you're at because he dies at the beginning, so you know that although, once you figure out the twist, that might not necessarily have to be true. But I think it is true of the movie. Every scene we see of Hugh Jackman is before the ending.
Yep.
And then there's also scenes with him with a limp and those without. And so you know that those with a limp are taking place after the ones where he doesn't have a limp.
Yep.
So it helps you to kind of keep track of roughly where you're at in the timeline, which I think is a clever way that Christopher Nolan
definitely
constructed this script, him and his brother. And then, as far as, performances go, I think Hugh Jackman's
really good.
Really good. This is, not long after, well, I guess it's probably a
See, this movie came out in 2006.
So he'd been Wolverine for 6 years.
Yeah.
So he was a household name, but
he was definitely a household name by this point. You can tell that he's still in his Wolverine phase. He had yet to do Last Stand, I believe.
Yeah.
Correct? That came out in
2006. Yeah. Anyway,
did it come out the same year?
2000. I want to say it came out in 2006.
Anyway, but you can tell he's still kind of in that phase.
He's ripped.
He's ripped. he's got the 6 or 8 or whatever pack he's got going on. Boy's been working out. No.
Yeah, I definitely think that Hugh Jackman is good in this movie.
Christian Bale's also really good.
Christian Bale is good. He's still kind of in his Batman mode, I guess. Like, it's very, he's serious all the time, and I still feel like maybe this is supposed to be his character. I still feel like he's overacting at times just a little bit. And his accent, I think he's from Wales.
He's definitely English. I know that.
I'm pretty sure he's from Wales.
Where from.
But I don't think this is his natural accent.
No, I think he's putting on. He's definitely putting on the accent a little bit, but it's interesting, especially for a lot of people. Batman Begins was their big introduction to Christian Bale.
Yeah.
For other audiences, probably American Psycho.
Yeah,
that's a movie.
Yeah.
But if seeing, even if you had seen both those films prior to seeing this, hearing him speak with that American accent and then hearing him speak in a more closer to his natural, tone and dialect is kind of off-putting at the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
You're like,
It's a little weird for a while. And like I said, I don't think it's his natural accent because I don't think it's entirely consistent. But no, Christian Bale as a whole is good. I think he's the right fit for this role of this troubled man that he's or men, as we'll figure out at the end of the movie. I think he's good. And then of course, we have other rotating actors in and out of the movie. Michael Caine is in it quite a bit. In it.
He plays
Michael Caine.
Yeah, he's the same character. Alfred. He's the old wise guy.
I think it's kind of funny that his name is it
Christian Bale's character?
Christian Bale's character, Alfred, and then of course Michael Caine plays Alfred in the Batman.
Yeah, it's pretty
franchise.
funny. I wonder if they did that on purpose.
Well, this is based off a novel I learned. So I don't know if that's taken from the novel or if that was something they added in. But from what I understand, the novel is quite different from how the movie plays out. But anyway, Michael Caine, of course, is good. Can't complain.
He plays Michael Caine. Scarlett Johansson is in this as well.
Scarlett Johansson is in it, and she does a good job. I mean, she's not in it a whole lot.
No,
but...
she's basically just a magician's assistant and ends up being a love interest for one of Christian Bale.
Well, for both characters.
Kind of.
It was a big part of the story that Hugh Jackman, he has a chance to get back what he lost with Scarlett Johansson. I mean, frankly,
and he kind of just pushes
Scarlett
her
Johansson's
away.
a lot prettier than his wife beforehand, but he has become, this movie's at the core of it is about obsession.
Yeah.
And he becomes so obsessed with figuring out how Christian Bale's character does this magic trick of the double man or whatever, the transportation man. That he just sends her away like a spy to
go find out his secret. And she's like, well, what's he gonna say when I get there? She's like, well, just tell him the truth.
Yeah, and then of course through the series of flashbacks, she figured out that she really did turn on him, and
she started falling in love with Christian Bale's character.
But
his characters.
I think at the core of this movie, I really like the themes that Nolan was going for. It's a great allegory for obsession.
Yeah.
It's not really about magic like we talked about.
But magic gives a more generic movie audience who maybe wouldn't step foot into watching this movie. Gives them an in. They're like, okay, well, maybe it's about magic, and there's enough magic and scenes that contain some sort of trickery or show that it makes it interesting, even if you're not there for the drama aspect of it. You're like, okay, I just kind of want to watch some magic tricks. There's enough of that in it that it's entertaining.
And then there's another, of course, Nolan is very, into tricking you. And, I like the twists in this movie. There's a lot of twists.
I'd say there's one main twist that for both characters.
Yeah, well, both characters, you find out that Hugh Jackman, he goes to Tesla at some point in the movie.
Yep.
Because, there's a lot of clever writing here going on, and I'm not going to get into all of it. But basically, Christian Bale's character makes Hugh Jackman believe that he went to Tesla to get a device to do this trick when actually he didn't. But Hugh Jackman goes to Tesla anyway.
Has him build this
device, which clones him essentially.
Yeah.
And then we figure out at the end of the movie that Christian Bale
is a twin.
Which, you know, if I'm gonna point out some logic flaws in this movie, and maybe this is I need to watch it more than once. You know, a lot of Christopher Nolan movies you need to watch more than once to get all the nuances. But I don't know if I really ever understood why Christian Bale's twin, Alfred's twin, went along with all this to the extent that he did. And, you know, there's some minor things like, if you really want to get nitpicky, like at the scene where that actually starts the movie where Christian Bale goes up on stage and finds Hugh Jackman drowning in the water below. You know, how did Hugh Jackman's character know, you know, usually when he's doing that magic trick, he teleports and the clone instantly drops into the water, and then he like instantly pops out from behind the curtain up in the balcony or whatever. Well, in this particular instance, he's trying to frame Christian Bale for murder, but how did he know? Like, well, I guess like in this particular instance, not to pop out on the balcony immediately. Did he see Christian Bale go up in there on stage?
I don't know. I think it's supposed to be implied that he knows that he's supposed to be there that night.
Yeah.
Or that he would be there that night to try to, and so he just set it up to frame him so he knew not to pop. He didn't pop out purposefully.
It's kind of convenient.
When it happened, you know.
You know, they go back and forth in the movie where they'll go to one another's show and disguise, quote unquote,
and mess with them
and get picked to be a participant. It's kind of convenient that they always get picked to be a participant. I mean, you could write that off like we don't see all the times they went and didn't get picked, I guess. I mean, they're just minor things that I could pick at, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's very cleverly written.
Yes,
I enjoyed it a whole lot.
I'd say it's one of the more underrated Christopher Nolan movies. I mean, it's talked about, but I don't think it's definitely not talked about, say, as much as the Dark Knight trilogy or Inception or Memento. But it's really good.
Yeah, it's really good, and like I said, I think all around, even David Bowie makes a glorified cameo as Tesla. Which is another interesting subject.
Andy Serkis is briefly in this movie as well as Nikola Tesla's assistant, which is kind of interesting.
Lots of famous people in this movie. I mean, they might not have all been as famous as they are now, but I mean, we could sit here and talk about the plot because there's so many intricacies forever and ever. But
we'd be here for hours.
Basically, I mean, it's. I think it's really well written for the most part, definitely. And even though I'm not big into magic or whatever, I enjoyed it. But do you have any more to say before we get into?
No, I think what we both said is definitely summed it up pretty well.
All right. Well, do you want to start with buy it, stream it, or skip it?
Well, yeah, I guess so. Well, clearly I'm gonna say buy it because I have it. It's right there.
It's right there.
I think if you're definitely a fan of Christopher Nolan, it's a must see. Like I said, it's probably one of his more underrated, less talked about movies, and I don't know why, because it's very well written, like we both said. There's a lot of twists, a lot of turns, a lot of intrigue in this movie, and it's written very cleverly. I mean, there's scenes in the movie where the two men both have diaries, and they seem to have somehow swapped diaries, and they basically are like, at the very end of each diary, after they both figure it out, they're like, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And it's done really, really well. I mean, despite the magic aspect of the movie, there's enough mystery and intrigue in this movie that most people, I think, would be entertained by watching it. And then you throw the magic on top of there, and that brings in a whole new audience that wants to see that kind of film. But I think it's really good. Acting's great all the way around. I'd say everyone pretty much does what they're asked to do here. I think Christopher Nolan does a pretty good job of pulling out good performances from his actors most of the time. But overall, I mean, I think it's a really good movie. I would definitely, if you want to, buy it.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree. I think this movie, like Nolan's best films, demands multiple viewings so you can understand everything, all the intricacies and how it all connects, which I wish I'd have been able to see it more than once before we reviewed it. So maybe I'm not the best person to be talking about it, but no, sitting through it one time through, I was very intrigued. Despite the content of what I thought was going to be like a magician movie. It's very entertaining. I mean, it does get a bit. I mean, it's a 130-minute movie. It may be a little tedious at times, but no, I think Nolan uses the runtime to just about his best potential and sets up these, there's great characters in this movie. I think Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale both play really intriguing characters, and I really love that, just, how Nolan shows how obsession can just destroy a person. Yep. And I think all that is really great, and all the backstabbing and intrigue and, double crossing.
It's done really well.
Yeah, and then, once you figure out the twist at the end. Now, I will say, I realized, like, in the first scene that Christian Bale was the guy under all that makeup, that was the guy following Alfred around. But I was like, but that didn't ruin the experience for me, because I still didn't understand why. I was like, did he actually have a machine too, or is this a twin? What's going on? So that didn't ruin it for me. I don't know if Nolan was quite as clever as he thought he was with hiding Christian Bale there. But, lots of doubles in this movie, and, dual personalities, and all that kind of, subplots. So, yeah, I'm going to say buy it as well. I don't think, it's not my favorite Nolan film by any stretch, but it's definitely another good one that he can have on his resume and be proud of. And so I'll say buy it as well.
I think that's it for talk about the movie. Other than that, we canceled our Spiral series.
Yeah,
because
delayed it
until next year.
Yeah, until next year.
Spiral's been put off, so we're not going to review the Saw franchise. Instead, we have decided we're going to do Back to the Future and Indiana Jones, because there's enough space in there to work with it.
And then Mulan right before the new Mulan movie comes out.
Hopefully it'll come out, and then also in July, mid-July, hopefully, Tenet comes out. So.
Christopher Nolan's new movie.
Chrissy Chris.
So thank you for joining us. As always, I got to plug our other podcast, Stomp This Way, where we talk about a different giant monster movie every week. So you can find that on all major podcatching services.
Yep. If you want to, follow us on social media. We're up on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I think we're still at DNA Film Wars on all of them, so make sure you give us a like or a follow.
Yep.
Be sure to tell your friends about us.
Yeah, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.
Yep.
And we'll see you next time.
Catch you later.